great middle class of this country has been disappearing. Trillions of dollars in wealth have gone to the top 1/10 of 1%. We have a massive situation in terms of wealth and income inequality in America today. And I want to change that. I think what this country is about is a great middle class, not a handful of billionaires receiving almost all of the new wealth and income. So, yeah, I believe that public colleges and universities should be tuition free. We pay for that. We pay for that by a tax on Wall Street speculation. Yes, I do believe that we should rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, create 13 million new jobs, rebuilding our bridges and our roads. We pay for that by doing away with all of these huge tax breaks, which allow corporate America to put their money in the Cayman Islands and in Bermuda, and in a given year end up not paying a nickel in taxes. And yes, I do believe that the wealthiest people and the largest corporations in America, who are doing phenomenally well, while the middle class continues to disappear, yes, I do believe that they are going to have to start paying their fair share of taxes.
But they say they do pay their fair share. They pay 80%. And when they look at
So, guys, I guess this is Bernie Sanders' tax plan. I actually like Bernie Sanders, so I ain't going to talk no crap about it for the Bernie Sanders supporters.
And at the same time, you want to force them to lend to people that are risky, which is how they say we got into the mess back in 2008 in the first place.
Well, Chris, that is wrong, wrong, wrong. This is the reality. Either we are going to be a nation in which we have a strong middle class, or we are going to be a nation which moves to an oligarchic form of society where a handful of very, very wealthy families control the economy and the political life of this country. Today, and let the American people make this decision, the top 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. Today, 20 of the wealthiest people in this country own more wealth than the bottom 50%, 150 million Americans. That is not what America is supposed to be about. That is not an economy that works for working families. That is a rigged economy. So bottom line here, Chris, is rich becoming much richer, most Americans becoming poorer, the gap is growing wider. I intend to do something about it, whether corporate America or the billionaire class likes it or not.
One political point. Headlines were made about this data breach. The firewall goes down. The Sanders campaign winds up looking at data it wasn't supposed to. The campaign acts quickly. You get rid of somebody. You suspend some other people. Why didn't it just end there? What is this call for a broader investigation and wanting the Clinton campaign involved? It sounds like a smokescreen.
Look, Chris, I hope that we can resolve this. I think the DNC understands. I think the Clinton people understand. We understand. This is not a great thing. We made a mistake. We have dealt with that mistake. We want to get it beyond us, and I hope that that will happen. We're in negotiations right now with the DNC.
But what's all this other stuff about a broader investigation and let's see what else happened? Why that distraction? Why not you own what happened?
Right. Well, we did own what happened, Chris, but here's what happened. And everybody has got to understand this. There has not only been one breach recently, there was another breach. And in that breach, we also ended up with information from the Clinton campaign, and how people went running to the DNC and said, what is going on here? You got a problem. So I want to make sure that we understand what's happened in the past and that it does not happen again. This serves nobody's purpose. Let's end it.
That's just the only piece I don't understand. What else do you think might have happened? What have you heard, or what do you think you can show that adds to the understanding?
Well, what we believe, what we know has happened, is this is at least the second breach. There was another breach a couple of months ago. Our campaign ended up with information from Clinton's campaign, and we went to the DNC right away. Nobody looked at it. Well, if there's a breach, a breach is a whole. Information can get to both sides. So we would like to take a look at that. We're not making any accusations, but I think it's fair to understand why these breaches occur and what the DNC is going to do to make sure that they do not happen again.
You know, I kept pushing him about that because I don't get it. You made a mistake. You own it. Move on. Yeah. Don't make it sound like there's a broader thing. But he says, without making any accusations, there is a broader thing. So we'll see what develops. So what did you think? Let's bring in our commentators and political anchor at Time Warner Cable News, Mr. Errol Lewis, and CNN senior political analyst and editorial director of the National Journal, Ron Brownstein. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Happy Christmas Eve. So,
good morning.
Errol, I'm pushing Bernie Sanders about why he's making more of this data breach. You know, is it just a smokescreen? He says, no, we have real concerns. Is this about tactics? Bernie's not known for that. Or is this about maybe something more there?
Well, I think there might be something more there. I mean, my understanding of how this database works is that every single time somebody goes in, whether you're at a high level or a low level, it is all recorded. If, as Bernie Sanders suggests, they went to the DNC and said, "You've got a problem here. We were exposed to information we weren't supposed to have." Well, what did the DNC do? Did they talk to their vendor? Did they fix the problem? And then, of course, Bernie Sanders, I think, leaving the door open to the possibility that maybe some of their data went wayward, and maybe the Clinton people had a bit of an unfair advantage at some point in the past. So, they don't have the information to conclude that one way or the other, but it does make sense. I think we should all want this to be cleared up, because this is not something that is supposed to be happening. And there's a lot at stake, including the privacy and the personal political preferences of lots of people who have tried to participate in the process. It really does have to get fixed.
Ron, beyond the data breach, what did you take away from Chris's interview with Sanders?
I'm just struck at first of all, happy holidays to you and everybody watching. I'm just struck by the different world in which the Democrats and the Republicans who are running for president are operating at this point. If you listen to the Democrats, the divide they want to kind of impose on the choice for the voters is an economic divide. It's kind of looking at the income ladder and kind of an us against them, against the 1%, and arguing, I think, with a great deal of statistical evidence, that the middle class has lost ground over the past generation while wealth has moved upward the ladder. The Republicans have a very different us and them in this campaign, particularly Donald Trump, who is dividing the electorate along cultural and ethnic and even racial lines. And you see these fundamentally different frames. What is the choice? Who is the coalition? I mean, if you look at the modern Democratic coalition, it actually is not as dependent on the working class as it once was. It's a coalition of minorities, millennials, and in the white population, more upscale, socially liberal, college-educated whites. Whereas it is Donald Trump and the Republicans who are dominating among the white working class, who often are most responsive to those cultural arguments. So it really is almost as if they are running for the presidencies of different countries at this point.
Riddle me this, Errol. I'm surprised by this. Of course, I'm getting beat up by all the people #feeling the burn because they don't like to see their people questioned. We know that's part of the game. But why is Bernie Sanders, I believe what Ron Brownstein just said, so why then is Senator Bernie Sanders doing better against the GOP field when he's such a starker contrast than Hillary Clinton is against the GOP field, even though she has a yawning lead on Sanders?
Well, there's a fair amount of leftover antipathy toward the Clintons, and I think we see
there
that
you go,
every day
Sanders
anytime you see
supporters.
the Republicans talk about her. So I think there's some of that going on, and it's not just confined to Republicans. I think, though, also, you got to, if Ron is right, and I think he might be about at least a big part of the electorate, you look at what's going on in a place like Iowa, where they have a serious child poverty problem, where there's a lot of people who still remember.
Yeah, and I try to drop videos before I go to work in the morning, and then when I get off in the afternoon.
$7.25
So you know
wage, and Bernie Sanders wants to more than
human.
double that, as well as provide free tuition. There's a lot to like there, and I think the polls are picking up some of that.
Ron, let's talk about the battle between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. It started with Donald Trump calling Hillary Clinton's restroom break during the debate disgusting. Then Hillary Clinton countered with saying that Donald Trump has a penchant for sexism. Then Donald Trump tweeted this: Hillary, when you complain about a penchant for sexism, who are you referring to? I have great respect for women. Then in caps, be careful. Chris and I have been debating what that be careful ominous warning means. How do you interpret it?
Hard to know exactly what he means. It might be a veiled reference to Bill Clinton and the Monica Lewinsky story. Hard to know. What I do know, I think, is that a couple things. First,
just not Monica Lewinsky, guys. It's almost 100 other ladies.
At a higher level than I've ever
Paula
seen.
Jones, and I can't remember all of them, but it's so many fucking women, you wouldn't even believe it.
Crossing over into the other primary is just extraordinary, and I think it's partially a reflection of how polarized our politics has become. I mean, each side really is looking for a warrior. The view of the other